session 19 of the Reaper King. So not more than a few moments after our previous session has passed here, Blogveer has still been slumbering deep in his coma, far, far away in the lands of Morpheus, that amorphous dreamscape of pleasant yet also sometimes horrifying nightmares that brings us to the present. In total, Blogveer has been in a coma for 18 days, just shy of 2 chains, still snoring like a distant hurricane, and his erstwhile companion, Hawker, whom you guys have come to know, those of you who have been awake and not in the land of Morpheus, have come to know as he is a priest of the great goddess Carnage. Day-to-day life amongst the Black Cloaks here is more or less normal, but Shihan's keen face senses have kind of detected something that is off about them. That first fair folk that you had met, who pushed you over when you tried standing after you got your leg broke. You caught a whiff of him just a few days ago as he passed you, and he smelled like a burrow, like a grave. He did not smell as you do. Your nights here have been a little on the chilly side. Yes, it has started to snow off and on, but during the day it gets warm enough. You're getting closer and closer to the colder cycles of the season now. But aside from that, it's a village. It is a village dedicated to 2 gods, the Grey Lord and Kendrick, the deity who presides over fear. Kea has fallen into her normal day-to-day interaction with the rest. She tends the wounded if hunters come back from hunts in bad shape. She gets out that loom that Blogfear hates so goddamn much. And she has been weaving him a new tunic, actually, which at this point looks like a goddamn tent. It's an ogre shirt. For the rest of us tiny folk, it's a tent, a really pretty tent. It has rained 3 times in these past 18 days. 2 of those were at night, and it was more sleet and or light hail, as the atmosphere is quite cold. But besides that, the medicine men and a handful of the wise women have been tending to your broken leg. Blogveer is still miraculously healed from those grievous wounds, but he is still somewhere far away, but yet he is so near. The stage lights come up to illuminate Shihan. What has he been doing this morning? It's about 10 o'clock in the morning on the 19th day that you've been here.
Well, Shihan, not having a lot of mobility because of his leg, has been working on taking some of the arrowheads he had in his pack and fashioning more arrows to sort of keep his mind at occupied while his friend Logbeer's been laying there unconscious like a snoring log. Very big log, though. Um, and over 18 days, he's probably done about one good arrow a day, really paying attention to it. And if there had been anybody there who would be interested in learning, he's also sort of teaching them the basics of how to choose the right arrow shaft, how to choose the right feather, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed, and how to make the fletchings, how to bind them to the arrow shaft, and then of course how to bind the bronze arrowheads to the shaft as well. So he's probably got, I would say, about 10 more bronze arrows than he had before. He is specifically making sure that the young Nemercian, whom he's been teaching bowcraft, he makes sure he's teaching him how to both make arrows and how to tend to the ones he already has and keep them up to the high quality that's required for a decent archer.
And he is quite willing and quite eager to learn from you. He's explained to you before that he has not had many interactions with Fae, as his village in particular um, is farther to the north and closer to the mountains in the east, kind of like in the foothills there. The fair folk don't range up that far.
Okay.
However, in the past few days, you have attracted the attention of a handful, we'll say four individuals. Um, they are young Carpathish boys, between the ages of like 17 and 24 cycles old. And to remind you, the Carpathish are a kind of a Neolithic tribal people that live closer to the inner world. Their race is mostly enslaved by those red-skinned primordial people that kind of cling to the
Uh,
mountains there. Um, this is the farthest south that they've ever been, and the others of the group kind of refer to these people as the Winter Children, as we are they're from the winter lands, we're from the southern lands. That's how they differentiate north and south. um, Carpathish are also rumored to be cannibals, uh, but they're it depends. It depends on how harsh the winter is up there. You have not been able to confirm that. There are other adults of their lineage in this uh, counter cult, if you will. But they all wear the black cloaks, and they these guys are devotees of Kendrick. But if you actually do take your time with your arrows, I'll give you a +1 attack bonus with at least those if you're being careful.
oh yes, yeah, I'll be definitely taking my time with those. So I'll put those on here separate. -1 +1. There we go. And so I'll be teaching them the basics of that, and I'll also, because of the fact that it's a tradition among the fair folk, is as we work we sing, sort of working songs and things like that. So I'm teaching them sort of some basic working songs.
Oh yeah.
It also helps them remember the steps that they have to go through. So,
Okay. They're not as good singers as you, of course.
and I tell them it's not necessarily how good you sing; it's the fact that the song reminds you of what you're supposed to do.
Oh.
It's a teaching teaching
Oh.
tool. So, and I tell them my father taught me these songs when I was just a child, and a child of barely 20 winters, and these songs I now pass on to them, and to hold them sacred to their hearts, and remember them when you let fly your arrows, for their the notes should make the arrows fly true. You know.
They kind of liken that to a form of fey magic, whether it is
Yeah,
or it's not true, but
right.
that's how they translate it.
Of course, they would. It's just a matter of it's not magic to us. It's just reminds us. So
Um, the uh, the head necromancer of this group, kind of like the village elder, if you will, uh, the individual known as Arth, comes to you, um, almost with this, and I can't actually do a Sir Christopher Lee impression, but I really want to. He's got a very Saruman kind of bearing to him. Um, as you're sitting down, kind of on your furs there, he looks upon you. How is your leg on this day?
still betraying me. I can stand upon it with the assistance of a stick, but and I can move around a bit, but it still pains me greatly.
That was a bad break that you had taken during that battle. You will be an invalid for some time yet.
Invalid maybe, but useless I am not. So I've been teaching these young ones how to prepare arrows for their future battles and for hunting, of course.
That's good. Everyone pulls their weight here. I expect any who travel with us to do their fair share in any capacity that they are able.
Luckily, I'm light. My friend Blogbeer is not. Thus, I do extra work if need be.
He is still slumbering in a faraway place. He'll he is safe, but it does not take much to look after a sleeping giant such as he.
Yes, I just fear that with his sleep, he may waste away. I've seen those who have fallen ill like this and not awoken, and the longer they lay there, the thinner they became until they were like ghosts, until eventually the breath just stopped.
He simply nods and bids you a good day as he continues his rounds around the encampment. He's got an attendant, really a staff, a personnel group of about 16 individuals that follow him everywhere. Again, a few of these individuals, they smell wrong. There is an other worldly grace about some of them, and it's well, naturally you think, well, some of these are fey. Of course, they're going to be graceful, but even them, there's just something wrong.
I'll lean over to the young boy. Um, Kellen is his name. We actually had, and say, Kellen, have you noticed how some of our hosts seem to move almost as if they're not even touching the snow?
He kind of gives you a really really uncomfortable look. Um, yes.
What do you think of this?
Um, well, my great aunt used to tell stories about spirits that moved like that, but they they haunted uh, graves.
Hmm.
She called them whites.
Hmm.
They were
Whites. Hmm.
they're
The
like ghosts.
the young men that I've been teaching, do they have the same look about them, the same smell?
The cannibals, the Carpathish
Yes.
guys. No, they
Okay.
do not actually,
Okay.
and they're
I'll
significantly younger looking. I'll
okay.
put that out there for you.
Okay. As I'm preparing, to shaving down the head of an arrow to get in preparation for mining an arrowhead, I'll lean over to Cullen and say, "Don't make yourself obvious about it, but ask." The others seem to have taken to you, and they may actually speak to a younger one more readily than they will myself. See what they say of these. I don't fear them, as I've seen stranger things in my days, but it's always good to know, just in case.
I am still quite fearful of this. I I don't know if I can.
Just understand this: fear is not real. It is an expectation of something that may happen, but has not happened yet. Do you feel pain before you're bitten by a wolf?
He says he shakes his head. No, well, of
Mhm.
course not.
Then do not fear that which has not happened. So remember that. Only react to what is here and now. Fear can lead you astray. Fear can cripple you just as readily as he looks down at his leg as a bad fall. Don't allow it to cripple you, and you will do well.
One of the Carpathish boys looks up and says, "Spoken like a true devotee to fear." And he actually takes out a holy symbol from under his tunic and he kisses it.
Shihan tilts his head a bit and says, "I've not had much experience with your god. Would you uh, would you be willing to tell me more about them? I am interested in this god that rules over fear."
Uh, they kind of just look at each other with this. Well, of course, and everyone knows about fear. Fear is in everything. Uh, Fear is a prevailing force that guides and drives the world. Um, as you said, fear should not be crippling. It is not evil. It is not good. It simply is. But to overcome such things makes one stronger.
It does. Fear can make one strong. Fear can make one fast, but fear can also make one forgetful and make one make mistakes. For fear creeps into the heart and it causes us to rush when we should not. And with that, he finishes shaving down the arrowhead and picks up one of the few bronze arrowheads he has left. And he says, "I was taught by my father that in the days of old, when the fair folk would war upon one another and others outside of the forest, that there were nights when there would be the drums and the horns of barbarians just in the next valley, and they would have to sit and they would have to prepare their arrows. And there were those who were fearful who listened to the horns." As he's doing this, he's fitting the arrowhead there very precisely, and they would rush through trying to get as many arrows as they could. But those who took their time, they made less arrows, but those arrows flew more truthfully. And when those arrows struck, those arrows took life. The other arrows may not fly true, may miss their mark. And then, well, the one who launched an arrow may find themselves on the end of a spear or their skull crushed by a club. So always remember, fear is a great motivator, but to listen to it over much is to make mistakes, is to give your enemy the power, not yourself. And he ties the arrow on and checks the balance of it. He sets it aside.
The oldest of the boys says the many of the sutras to Kendrick remind one to stay calm and steady in the face of a storm, and use that eeriness to inflict that fear that you have. And he kind of like touches his chest on others and give them no peace.
Shihan looks up and has a bit of a glint in his eye, and he says, "That weapon is known very well to my people. You know, many of the mortals in this land refer to us as forest devils, and we cultivate that. For those that have felt our bite, have seen our lithe figures moving through the moonlight or in the pre-dawn moments before an attack. If they call out in terror, and they flee."
The three boys nod. Yeah, we have heard such things.
But there are things out there that are more terrifying even than us. There are things that he looks sort of out toward the door a little bit to see if anyone else is walking around. Things that come from elsewhere. Some say come from beyond the land of death. Do you know of such things?
Uh, One of them, the middle boy, will say, he says, I've heard from my father that there are things in the darkness and in the shadows that hide in the night that steal one away. Arth says that you're not supposed to practice black magic because you will lose your mind as well as your soul. And that's why some do it, so that others can be protected from such things and hide those secrets away.
Yes, the powers of as you call magic can be very taxing on the mind, especially if one does not understand them. I myself, I'm not one a practitioner at all, but there are many among my kind who are. They know the art of the pact and the deals and such with those beings beyond the corner of your eye that can grant one swiftness or strength or the ability to see like the birds or run like the deer. But there's always a price. Understand that. Whatever you do, no matter how tempting you are, when some ephemeral thing comes gliding out of the fog at night, whispering promises of greatness, understand they're doing it because they want something. Always know what they want before you take what they give.
The youngest of the Carpathish boys says, "Well, my aunt made a pact with a sylph once. She wanted to sing like the fairies, and the sylph made her sing like the fairies. But she had to bring her flowers. He had to go into the mountains and leave flowers for the sylph, so the sylph could wear flowers in her hair. And she sang like she was the best singer in our entire village up until she died. She was the babushka of our village, and she still sang very well all the way up until she died.
And how did she die?
Oh, she died of old age.
Ah,
Well, the fairies took her, really. That's what my aunt said. The fairies took her.
they very well may have, for at some point she may have not had the strength to carry those flowers as high as she once had. And once someone breaks a deal with one of the Fae, well, bad things can occur. He says, for instance, these human villages who lost the ability to do their rites for the Reaper King, look what happened to them. Their entire way of life has been destroyed, and all because, well, they wanted to have a good yield of the crops, and they wanted to be able to feed their families. And unfortunately, with you mortals, Fae live a long time, and the deals of the father and the mother tend to pass on to the child. So remember, if you ever make a deal with any kind of Fae, make sure your children know of this deal. Don't hide it from them, for as soon as you pass, they may have to pay that.
He continues. He says, "I don't think she angered the fairies. She was just too old, and she went into her tent, and she went to sleep and didn't wake up. And then, well, 2 days later, there was a sylph with flowers in her hair at
Ah,
my grandmother's tent, asking where she was, and she died. And then the sylph said that she would like to take her up into the mountains so that her spirit can sing with them forever. So I don't think she's quite dead." He kind of gets this look of puzzlement, like he's the youngest, maybe he's 17, he doesn't quite understand what the hell's going on.
yes, the ways of the Fae are a bit odd in the fact that they do live such a long time. And, well, mortals tend to burn very brightly, but they burn out quickly. Myself, as I said at this point, it may surprise some of you young men that I have been on this land for 221 cycles,
That kind of gets a couple blinks from them, but
and I am still
Kalen he's not surprised. I don't know. He's like, "Oh, of course."
I am still considered young among my kind. There are those among my kind who knew a time, well, before you mortals were even noticed by us.
The oldest of the Carpathish, it kind of interrupts you and goes, "Do you know Feldar? He,
Feldar.
he's a fair folk that comes with us from time to time. He has a great big beard, a great big
Ah,
strawberry blonde beard."
then he is an old one. For
And
only those who have been on this world for a very long time begin to grow the hair on the face.
he says he knows most fair folk.
He may.
He said that he's crossed really all over this land. He's been to the east over the mountains. He says there's a great forest, long, long, all the way over there. There's a place where like tall goblins ride woolly beasts on the plains. He also says that there's a great stone bridge that goes off into the mists across a sea that one of the gods built. But he should be around somewhere. He comes and goes as he is. Arth says he is a magician, but he denies this. He says he's not a magician. He says he's simply a bard, a minstrel, nothing more.
Feldar. Out of character, I know Feldar.
You would have heard of him. You
Okay.
have personally have never seen him.
Okay. I've heard tales of Feldar, although I myself have never crossed paths with him. My people do say he's a great storyteller and brings stories and songs from far away when he comes. But his yes, his visits to us are very far in between. So
Um, the last you had heard of Feldar, he is the High King of the Fair Folk. He's the bard. He's like the
Uh,
bard druid of that, of his court. He's like not a vizier, but an advisor of some kind.
uh, a bard, a giver of the law, one who remembers the
Yeah,
records and how things have been done before.
he is a law speaker. Yes.
Ah, okay. So yes, he does. His if you meet him, count it as a special thing. Not many people have met him, but most people who have met him only meet him once, for he does not come by, in at least in mortal perspective, often. So, um,
Um, uh, Arth's head apprentice. He's an Emercian named Mazanon. He says that Feldar might actually be a god in mortal guise, but um, when he came to see us, uh, it was 2 months. They kind of the three boys kind of look at each other like, like how long is it? So it's like about 2 months before you showed up. And then he said he was going to see the bearded folk up in the mountains because he has friends there.
yes, he has friends in many places. The bearded folk do have tales of him. Um, they have their own name for him, though I do not at this moment recall it. But yes, he as far as him being a god, mm, many mistake our elders for gods because we have seen so much over such a long time. It seems as if our knowledge, well, as if we know more than any mere mortal could know, which is true. We're not mere mortals, but gods, I would not call us such. So I would not even call the great lords of the courts gods per se. Gods, gods are almost unknowable.
Like the stag in the woods.
Yes,
There's supposed to be a great big stag. Is that one of your gods?
we do revere him as such. Yes.
There's also another one, and he has uh, I don't remember his name, but and he uh, the oldest of the boys, he draws a rune in the dirt with his index finger, and it's actually the letter V. And he
Hmm.
goes, it starts with this letter,
Hmm.
and there's statues uh, along roads, like where there used to be like old hunting paths, like and like if a hunter died on a hunt, they bury him on the side of the road, and then they build a statue with a shrine.
Yes.
He's like the fair folk describe him like the uncle that if your cart, and he's trying to explain it. He's talking with his hands, like almost kind of, he's almost Italian there for a moment. He's talking with his hands. He's like, if your cart breaks down on the side of a path, and you send for a family member, he's the uncle who brings a broadsword and another wheel if you're in a bad part of the woods.
Yes. That is another god we follow. Well, we honor, I should say. We us fair folk, we don't worship per se as the mortals do. We It's more like we acknowledge the god's greatness and that we walk with them, but we don't truly bend our head to any deity. It's just it's like they are. We show them respect, the kind of respect you would show a bush guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, that yeah. Everyone knows that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, we have babushkas as well, though. The god you're referring to is we call him Valakir,
Oh.
And there's another that that you may also encounter along those paths, especially at the far edge of where your hunting range may be for a village, where what people think of as their home territory changes into what is true wilderness. He stalks there. You'll occasionally see a, a, a shadow in the forest, or you'll hear a distant odd roar, or possibly hear a twig snap behind you and
Like a
not know
great
what it
cat.
is. A great cat, yes. That one we honor, though we do not know if he is truly a god or what he is. But I have a cousin who dealt once with a some fae of the woods. I'm not sure what this being truly was, but one of the things he wanted to do was he wanted to be able to understand beasts. He had a curiosity about the beasts of the wood and the fields, and this fae told him that that being is a hunter god that is not well. He is a hunter god of the edges, the fringe of where human, and it's an odd word for your ears, but the word in our language is civilization. Um, where that meets the wilds, and that the great cats actually honor this spirit, and they say in their own language that his name is Parhis.
Hmm. They've never heard of such a spirit.
Yes, be wary of that one, for you never know. As much as the large cats can be, they he can be benevolent and not and leave you alone, or he may choose to challenge you for being in his territory. And we all know what a large cat can do in that situation.
They all nod, and they as the conversation kind of dies there, they kind of go back to what they were doing, and they'll ask questions if they need it, if they need help making more arrows. Um, the
Oh,
uh, the curtains will close on that scene. And the next thing that we'll see as the stage lights come up, Blogveer is sleeping as he is one to do, and his companion, that he's not yet discovered he has this companion, sits nearby on a stump that's upright. He's kind of using as a stool. He's taking a whetstone to a long axe, and he's sharpening that blade. Uh, After a good 40 minutes of taking that whetstone to the edge, he'll take a very finely polished uh, tin, kind of like a square rectangle, just a piece of metal, and he'll kind of hold it up so where you can see it has a reflection in there, but it's not really good enough to be a mirror. Like you see, he sees the difference between like his face and his um, where his beard starts, and he tests out the edge, and he shaves off a bit of uh, the stray hairs that have grown like higher on his cheekbone with this big axe head. And once he's satisfied, as he's cut off maybe two, three, four hairs, he puts his whetstone away and takes a drink of his blood wine. Blogveer stirs for a few moments and mutters something in his sleep. He turns around. His his tobacco pipe is clenched in his teeth. He leans over and just kind of like squeezes his Blogveer's shoulder for just for a moment. He goes, "It's all right. Just fight through the nightmares. I'll make sure nothing gets you on this side." As that scene fades away, we find ourselves in Blogveer's consciousness. What was Blogveer muttering in his sleep? And what do we see of his dreamscape?
Blogveer, as of right now, is in the midst of a pretty fierce nightmare. He's reliving the battles that he had with the Atlanteans, and he's calling out to his friend Gilfek. That's what he was muttering in his sleep. Uh, the battle that's happening here is along the shoreline, um, and it is a raging storm is happening. There is Atlantean magic being cast left and right, and these resistance fighters, if you will, these rebels are pushing back these Atlanteans, but the magic combined with the storm are hampering their attack rather well, and Blockveer had lost sight of his good friend Gilfek, and just as he fell, an Atlantean foot soldier, he turned his his gaze towards the shoreline, and he saw his friend Gilfek being set upon by three Atlanteans, and he called out to him, but his cries were overshadowed and drowned out by the big crack of lightning and thunder. Lightning lights up the skies as the thunder shakes the earth. Um, for a second, Blogveer doesn't know if this is nature or if the Atlanteans are about to launch some catastrophic magic upon them. And before he can go over there and to assist his friend, he takes a couple of strides and he's hit by Atlantean magic square in the chest. Um, this is like as if lightning itself had came down and struck him. It's enough to make him fall to his knees as his chest is smoldering, his armor is scorched, every nerve and muscle in his body is twitching and searing in pain, and he looks towards the assailant, and it is a Atlantean magician, sorcerer, war wizard. All that Blogver knows is that this Atlantean is powerful in the ways of magic, and for some reason he singled out Blogveer. It's if he knew that Blogveer was needed to help his friend, and he was basically saying, you know, have to go through me to get to your friend, and it took Blogveer a little while to recover from such a blow. And even when he was able to stand up, his legs didn't want to move. They were there was shaking like a tree in the wind. Um, but just as he thought, well, this is it. My legs won't move. He sees the war wizard, this magician. His hands begin to crackle and glow, and Blogbear just, this is it. This is how I die. I'm gonna be roast alive here. Just as that happens, the wizard has a grimace over his face, and he falls to his knees. And Blogbear looks down, and his friend Gilfek has a spear dug deep into the uh, the calf muscle of this Atlantean, and Blogver had no idea how his friend was able to escape the three soldiers that were set upon him, but he wasn't going to question it, and it took all willpower he had to get his legs to to come back to the land of the living, if you will, because they were not wanting to move, and it took every fiber of his being to get his legs to move one foot in front of the other. and eventually he got his faculties back, and he just began sprinting towards this Atlantean who was about to retaliate from being struck by his friend Gilfeg. And before the Atlantean can even think about casting another spell, he was met with a rather hefty club to the side of the skull. And that was the last thing that Atlantean saw. And just when Blogveer is reliving these moments, the turning point in this battle, um, the rain from this storm turns black and thick, and it begins covering all the soldiers, himself included. A gill effect, they all get covered in this thick, sticky blackness that turns the ground into a sand pit, a quick sand pit. They all begin sinking into this black muck. It fills their open mouths. It goes into every crevice and orifice in their body. It starts becoming them. Yeah, they can't pull it off. They can't wipe it clean. It is sinking into them. And the Blogbear reaches towards his friend. Tendrils of blackness come from the ground and engulf his friend and pull him to the darkness. And before Blogbear has a chance to react, he is also being pulled down, as all the Atlanteans and all the rebellion, all the rebel fighters are being pulled down into this blackness. As the last thing Blogbear sees is just this incorporeal face that appears as he looks up to the sky, as he's being sucked down and enveloped in this blackness. He can't. It is just a formless face. He can make out some features, but it seems to be smiling. As finally the blackness just engulfs him, fills his mouth, his lungs. And finally his eyes, and then just pure blackness envelops him. And he's sweating profusely. He is tossing and turning, and these nightmares are taking its toll on him. He will have grunts and the occasional screams in his sleep as he tosses and turns from this hellish nightmare that has befallen him.
The next image that Blogveer sees is just a sea of white, which then a flowering meadow of lilies fades into view, almost as if you got something in your eye. You reach up and wipe whatever it is, the sleep, the mucus, the whatever it is that is obscuring your vision from your eyes. You see that a beautiful woman, the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Uh, the woman in the mauve colored dress that came to you in a vision some maybe even lifetimes ago. You've lost track of time and space here. She is the same size as you, but she is not an ogre. She is more or less a mortal woman that has somehow grown to such enormous and opulent proportions. She smiles upon you as you're in this meadow of lilies. And she goes, "Your friends have been waiting for you this entire time." She waits for you to answer as it sinks in.
I cannot escape this place. I do not know how. I don't know where here is.
You are in the land of Morpheus, the land of dreams.
See,
You've been asleep this entire time.
doesn't seem possible. Seems like I've died and I'm stuck in this life now. It seems
I can
eons have
ass-
passed.
I can assure you this is not the afterlife. And you are not trapped here. You have permission to leave whenever it is that you wish. But I will tell you this, the time that you've spent in this realm has fortified you against the horrors of the realm of the living. Bear that in mind when you finally do leave.
I will.
There was much despair in your life before you found her, and now that there is love again, I came to notice when your heart was filled with such joy and gladness. I took notice. It was a beautiful thing to see your heart sing such a tune. I was worried for you. She's waiting patiently for you. You should go to her.
Yes. She's been waiting far too long.
Are you ready to go?
Yes, I think I am.
The mortal woman, walks to you, and she puts her dainty, graceful hands on either side of your face, kind of like stroking your beard as she does so. And she leans over and she kisses you. And the next thing that you know is a cold, almost as if, say, it's in the dead of winter and you're inside all day, and you take a step outside and you take a deep breath of that crisp, cold winter air that kind of makes you, it kind of burns your lungs for a few moments, and you cough. That feeling of cold, bitter air fills your lungs, and you cough. And the next thing that you see when your eyes finally open is an Arborean smoking a long stemmed pipe with a long axe on his left knee. He looks down at you and smiles from behind that pipe. Welcome back to the realm of the living, my friend. The floor is yours.
Who are you? Where am I?
My friends call me Hawk, but my name is Hawker. You're safe. Your friend is in that hovel over there. He's holding his pipe in his left hand and he's pointing with his middle finger. He points to a hovel just about 60. And he says, Kaya is over there. And she's been on that loom since you've taken a nap.
Oh, by the gods. How long have I been asleep?
What is the last thing that you remember?
It's all hazy.
Take a
There was
moment to think.
there were goblins. We won the fight, and
Your Fey friend broke his leg.
yes, Shihan, and I had to appease the demon, and everything else is hazy. I can't recall.
This morning, that will have been 19 days ago.
By the gods.
Shall I go send for your friends?
I'm going to try to get up. I don't know if I can or not.
Make an athletics test here. That you're gonna roll it. I am not going to reveal that penalty to you, but we'll see.
That is a E
E.
23.
Okay. The best you can do is haul yourself into a sitting position. You can't get on your feet yet, but you're vertical.
Okay. I no, I can get them myself. And oh, perhaps not. I think I'll wait here for them.
Hawker finally gets up and he smiles. He walks over to you and puts his fist on your shoulder, and he kind of like he he pounds your shoulder like gently, like twice, just like to steady you, and kind of like a comforting thing, like I'm here, and I'll get him. You'll be all right. Have some wine. There's plenty to go around. And you see these two great big barrels next to you, and he winks as you see that the symbol for carnage is actually painted in blood on the side of these two barrels. And he walks off into the camp.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure my throat's kind of parched, so I may partake of the blood wine just a little bit.
Oh, just a little
Just,
bit. You mean
just, a,
like
just,
one,
a,
just one barrel? Okay.
yeah, just quench my thirst, you know.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Get,
yeah.
get that tickle out back of my throat, you know.
Uh, a hawk walks into Kaya's midst, and she looks up. She kind of has this weary, tired but pleasant smile on her face, and you see her from across the way, and even groggy and tired. Again, she is a vision. She's just so. It's even if she's doing something so mundane and you hate that loom so much, but it makes her so happy. And she's just perfect. Whatever she's doing, she's just stunning. And she looks over uh, to you from across the way, and her face lights up. All of that worry on her face just evaporates. And she gets up and she almost like runs, like almost. She damn near runs to you, and she wraps her arms around you, and she just buries her face in your furs. You now notice that you're wearing a very handsome, very smart, and very elegant cave bear cloak. See, these clearly the finest garment that you have ever owned, or whatever. Obviously, in your mind, it's not yours, but you're wearing it. uh, you have this tender moment of oh, by the gods, I missed you. And there are tears, there's kissing, and there's just she's crushing the life out of you with her ogre hug. And Hawk, some ways away, um, the grim and blood-caked visage that he is, his hair still slicked back in the red cap fashion of Arborians. He looks on. He almost gets kind of like a sick pleasure. You can see it in his eyes. A sick pleasure of seeing her like almost crush the life out of you. Like, yeah, now that's a hug. Yeah, her. He doesn't say anything, but he smirks. And he swaggers on over to Shihan's hut. And Shihan will be interrupted by a knocking of the haft of an axe on one of the posts that holds up your hut. And Hawk's face kind of just appears in around the flap of the tent.
That's the Watcher of the Nearly Dead. What word have you?
He's up.
Oh, he'll reach over and grab the sort of short staff that he's cut or has aside for this purpose and levers himself up,
This
keeping his
great
leg.
big Arborian hand kind of reaches through the tent to help you.
Okay. Um, and he steadies himself, and then using that short staff, bracing his leg with it, he exits this hovel to look and see Blogbeer. He
And
looks up. And,
the scene has not changed from when I described it. She's still
okay.
crushing the life out of him.
Okay. He'll wait a moment, grinning, seeing her the relief on her face finally, and then he yells out, "About time you got up, you lazy oaf!"
Good to see you too, Shihan.
We thought you'd finally slept your last.
It felt like it.
Yeah. He motions over to the group of younglings that are probably never too far from his hut. He says, "They were considering butchering you up and seeing what other tasted like. So I convinced them you'd probably be way too stringy at this point."
I'm sure my meat's rotten by now.
A couple of the boys kind of get that their noses kind of crinkle of it, or the prospect of rotten meat. And the oldest of the boys says, "No, Atlantean is what we should be eating." And he kind of spits in the dirt.
I wouldn't feed that to my and then Blogger just kind of like holds his head and he kind of just swoons a little bit and like, still kind of weak.
Well, they have good food here, and as you probably noticed, he looks over at the casks of wine. Decent wine. They're not spelling it without blood.
Hawk enters this grouping behind you. He says, "That's more than decent wine. The rest of that's for Blogbeer. I've had my plenty in these past few days." As you do catch a whiff of him, and there's some alcohol on him. We'll just say that, just a
Okay.
bit.
Okay. He'll Blogbeer will hold on. Shihan will hobble over to Blogbeer, hold out a hand to him, do his best to do the whole forearm grab, and says, "I'm truly glad that you're awake, my friend. I truly worried."
Blogbeer will reach up and try not to break his friend's arm as he shakes his embraces him and shakes his head. But I couldn't die and leave all the glory to you.
Sure you could.
By the way, where did you get all these furs from?
I didn't. You arrived back in them.
Where in the blazes did I get them from?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I was here with he looks down at his leg, injury when you arrived. Hawk and his friends here have been tending to you and myself over the past 18 days. I think it's been 19.
19 this morning by my count. Hawk chimes in.
I am extremely grateful, but who are you people and where are we?
The fair folk that has been coming back and forth with holding conversation and keeping company with Shihan over the past two chains, shows up and he smiles, he bows, and greets you in the ogre tongue. I'm glad that you're alive, but who we are is, well, he puts his hand on his chest. I am of the Silver Brotherhood, and the others, he points out a few individuals in the crowd. They are of the White's Grasp. They are uh, a cabal of necromancers that revere the Grey Lord. We we preside over the mortal dead in these lands. We are what some would call undertakers. We prepare the dead for the next life.
Why were you engaging goblins in the plains?
Well, there was an upstart goblin king or chieftain that had come down from the mountains, and he had been raiding. The cult had been raiding the villages for their magics, as you know, and we could not abide two threats. So we stopped the goblins, and we have driven the cult across the river back to their valley.
Every undertaker I known are only good at slinging bodies, not making them.
Well, some of us. Shihan, as he's standing next to you, he's standing. Oh, you're standing downwind of him, and that smell of the grave fills your nostrils there.
He'll crinkle his nose up a bit, lean over towards Blogbeer in Atlantean. He whispers up to him and says, "I believe they carry the scent of the grave upon them."
He did.
Smells that too.
He did say they were undertakers, grave diggers of sorts. So that's not to be unexpected, is it?
No. But
I find
some of them move with the uncanny grace of those who don't abide by the mortal coil, if you know what I mean.
He did say something about necromancers.
Yes.
And they both smells bad to me.
They do.
Well, if they wanted to kill us, they would have done it by now, I imagine.
Well, I'm sure we were probably close to the edge, as close as they have seen, I'm sure.
It is very queer, though.
Well, think about it. This cult that we've been vexed by for so long, they raid the graves of the dead. They dress themselves in the funeral garments of those who have passed. Their natural enemy would be, well, people like these, would they not?
That makes sense. And I suppose that they're just good Samaritans taking out goblins.
Yes, I'm sure the goblins probably may have had something to do with this cult. But they are aware of the cult. I've spoken with their leader a few times about them, and they do not like them any more than we do, and they've even offered aid.
Finally, someone who actually acknowledges that there's an actual threat out there, that
Yes.
the two of us can't save the world by ourselves.
Yes, but I've been teaching some of their young ones how to craft arrows. I've also been listening to the mutterings here and there of things, and I think that a plan may be forming, but we need to get healthy first.
Yes, indeed. Not only has the cult been able to move freely with us being here, but I'm sure your kind, your brothers are already besieged by the Queen of the Atlanteans by now.
Not from what I understand. The Atlanteans are still a bit further away,
Good.
but messengers. I've asked them to send messengers to my people to let them know of the threat. So,
Now we just wait. That's
The
the worst
Fey
part.
Ranger there is he nods. He goes, I will be leaving this afternoon to take your message.
thank you. So, um, I do have one request, and
Oh,
he reaches into his satchel. He pulls out a bit of leather that he's scratched on. His his writing is crude by um, anyone's judgment, but at least it's somewhat legible in the Fey tongue and the runes they use. And he said carry this and give it to well pretty much anyone there. They'll know who to get it to. The name is there. To my uncle, my aunt, to let them know that their son has fallen in the wilderness. They would want to know.
the ranger there, who you've come to know as the name of Arl, he nods. Hopefully, he finds a peaceful rest.
I hope so as well.
I will leave you to your reunion, but I will come. I will return when I'm about to leave, so that you know.
Thank you.
He bows and then dismisses himself.
Well, as I'm sure you're probably starving. As he looks at blood beer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's get some food in you and talk about where you were. What were you doing while you were away?
I fear it'll be a short conversation. It's all blur. It's all blur to me.
Well, maybe speaking about it will bring her back. So, were you bewitched?
No, he
Were you
wasn't
raped?
bewitched. Hawk smiles. No, he was battling giants and dragons, demons, and all manner of horrible things from the depths of the sea.
I meant before he fell into the slumber.
Well, there was that as well. I watched over him this entire time, and I bore witness to all of these great battles.
Well, it's good to have an audience.
Shihan raises an eyebrow at that. Not sure, like an audience to my dreams.
Where's this food you speak of?
Yeah. Shihan hobble over and see if he can find some food for Bloodbeer, or at least get the cook fires at least.
They're already at this time. The camp has been notified that their sleeper has awakened, and they're already bringing over a stew pot, if you will.
Here's a small bowl of stew for you. It's a full cauldron.
Yeah, right. Bring the whole pot.
Yeah.
Big spoon. And Hawk looks over to Shihane. I says, I believe that we should allow the couple some time alone. She has been quite distraught at her absence.
That is true.
Come on, and Hawk just looks at your troop of goslings, really, and he just kind of claps. With quick march, go, be off with you.
I'll make sure I'm behind, and those who seem to want to dawdle, I'll give them a quick rap to the behind with my short staff, and take them into the hut to continue the class.
Hawk will he'll sit on his stump outside your hovel, and he'll just smoke. He's not going to hotbox your hut there, but he'll just smoke, and he'll hum a battle hymn to himself. He's he's been quite grim these past two chains, but he's got a bit of a bounce in his stride. And as you know, you've come to know really, Hawk is a very good singer. He You kind of mistake him as, oh, clearly he's a minstrel of some kind because he's got a really good voice. But no, he's really good at singing, but he prefers killing people than playing a musical instrument. But as that song kind of wafts through the encampment, that uh, Shihan, well, I need sight tests from both of you at this time.
That's a 6.
Oh, okay. All right. Clearly, you're not paying attention.
No, of course not. I got a big old giant cauldron full of food and the most beautiful woman in the world right here. So, yeah, I have no clue what's going on.
And Keith?
I think he said he'll be right back.
Oh, shit! He'll be right back. I'll say that you detect there's no small amount of sorcery in that song, whether or not you're paying attention to it or not. It seems the darkness is far enough away where everything seems all right. And Kea, she helps you eat there. Not like feeding you, but uh, she'll get you a spoon, and she'll just sit there next to you, kind of like leaning on you, her head on your shoulder. Just she's essentially you guys are cuddling. That's basically what this is. She's very happy. She's over the moon that you're not dead. And you guys share that moment. And Keith, I need a sight test from you.
Okay. Let's see here. 9.
9. Oh yeah, okay. So, yeah, you're clearly not paying attention either.
Nope.
But that is enough. That is enough to detect that there is a small amount of sorcery in Hawk's singing. You don't know what it is doing, but there's something there.
Okay, he'll go back to his. He'll pause for a moment, noticing it, and then go back to his task, teaching the young ones.
What is Blogveer and Kea doing at this time?
Well, Blogbeer is finishing, or still eating his soup, his stew, and just absorbing every second of cuddling with Kea. He's savoring the moment, and he's enjoying the time they have. And he's never felt happier. Like he didn't think he could be happier. And then every time he sees her, it's like she just becomes more beautiful and more charming. And he's just over the moon, like you said, every time he sees her. So he is just enthralled with her, and he's probably just scarfing this food down because he's so hungry. So that's what he's doing right now. He is trying to get as much food into him as he can, and enjoying every second of cuddling.
She, after a real long moment, she goes, Blogveer. She's kind of like, she's got her like big ogre fingers kind of like entwined in this cave bear pelt cloak. And she's kind of like playing with the hairs there. She goes, "It embarrasses me, but I have to ask. It has been so long. I am so sorry, but I have forgotten what your favorite color is."
He will. He'll stop mid bite, and he just look at her, and that's a very strange thing to be brought up. He just kind of gives her like the eyebrow.
Do you remember when we were talking many cycles ago in the woods? We were talking about our favorite flowers and our favorite colors. You don't remember?
Of course, I remember. How could I forget?
I've forgotten your favorite color.
Well, I am quite fond of red.
Mm. She nods. Do you remember my favorite color?
Well, of course I do.
Oh shit, she put you on the spot, man.
How could I forget such a thing?
She kind of sits up and looks at you accusatorially. What
Oh,
is it?
Oh, you want me to tell you what it is? You forgot your own favorite color.
She cocks an eyebrow at you.
Because I obviously have not forgotten it. It is that one shade of that one color. This the I don't know the name
She
of it.
kind of leans forward, like, really? You?
He just starts snapping his fingers. It's on the tip of my tongue. It is well, it's blue, but I don't know the actual shade of it. I don't know such things. So there you go. You're welcome.
Blue.
Yes.
Oh. Just blue, huh?
Well, blue. Well, sky blue. You know, like the sky. On a clear day. Not too dark. Yes. That is exactly what your favorite color is.
Well, actually, I'm going to need a premonition test from you to
Oh,
actually
Jesus.
catch this.
Where is it? Oh, fuck. Jesus Christ, that's a 4.
Yeah, she very much feigns some level of acceptance, but she got a 22 on her deception there. Yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
yep. On the outside, yep, that's fine. On the inside, you
Son of a bitch. You dirty fucking bastard. Like, just give me a brick and pin in a coma. Damn it.
She's got to keep you on your toes, man. She is weighing your worth as a mate, man.
I mean, just let me chop some trees down or something. I mean, build a house or something. I can't remember colors. It's just too hard.
She kind of lays back down on your shoulder there, and she takes your free hand in hers. She said, I made a sacrifice to one of the goddesses to make sure that you were safe when you disappeared. Because I hope that does not upset you or offend you.
For all I know, it helped me. You could be the only reason I'm alive right now. Why would I be offended?
Well, I know that um, you're very devout to the goddess Carnage. She she does not come to my eye as someone who is kind and forgiving, and she does protect her own, but I in a fashion that I find frightening. I sacrificed to uh, Wisteria. She is the goddess that presides over love.
Well, I don't care who you worship or who anybody worships. It's fine by me. And Carnage can be loving in their own way. There could be carnage as a mother wolf protects her cubs. Um, Although there are not many ways Carnage can be loving. But I appreciate the gesture. And you
She
squeeze her
has
hand
a
tight.
she has a funny way of showing how she cares. I guess then. Hmm?
I won't disagree with you there. But my faith in the goddess does not warrant hatred for those who do not share my same beliefs.
There were several Atlanteans who left their gods to worship Carnage when I was living amongst them. It brought me a small amount of comfort to know that the deity that you so dearly hold to your heart found her way into the hearts of Atlanteans. I found that there was possibly a goodness there, regardless if it was in the bloodshed of battle.
Perhaps that was the goddess's way of letting you know that I was still alive, or some indication that I was still coming for you. Just something small to remind you. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher. But we can just hope and believe whatever makes us happy. And I think I choose to believe that.
She doesn't say anything but nods. She squeezes your hand back, and says, "I'm weaving you a new shirt
Oh,
because you need another one. This one that you are wearing is filthy and old.
it's not that bad.
You need a new shirt."
maybe maybe I could use a new shirt, but not because it's bad, because I'm tired of this one. That's
No,
all.
of course not, my dear. Of course not.
Yes. And I assume then that your loom is still doing well.
It has not uh, been damaged in any way. You have saved it. I thank you.
That is the greatest news I've heard in the past 19 days.
As I lie through my teeth to my mate.
I'm so happy that it brings you joy. And he's just like, look to her, he's like, you son of a bitch. Fuck you, Loom.
Why do you hate my loom so much?
uh,
She's teasing you now, but it makes you nice shirts.
that it does. Or you make me nice shirts and it helps. But I'm sure you could do it without its help. Maybe I had thought. Um, I don't hate your loom. I
Yes,
like
you
it because you like it.
do. She laughs and she says, "That's a lie."
No, I would never. lie to you.
Your shirt should be done in a few days. Shihan will be. Well, he will heal in a few more weeks, but that should give me time to make you maybe 2 or 3 shirts. And then she kind of looks off into this camp and sees the rest of these individuals clad in their dark cloaks. I think when you leave, I think that I will travel with these people until you're done with your task. I believe that's they're they're kind. There is a However, there's an other worldliness to them that I am not familiar with.
He puts his spoon down and he just looks at her. He's concerned. Are you sure? Have you learned much about them in this short amount of time to entrust your life in their hands? To be traveling with them?
In these past several days, I've learned that their job is equally as important as yours. I've found that, however, they travel from place to place, cleansing the land of corruption wrought by the Reaper King, and then they give the magics back that were stolen so that these villages can appease the Reaper King. And the fact that they move around as much as they do would be safer than to find a village amongst the fair folk to stay in, especially if some goblin tribes are coming down out of the mountains and attacking these stationary villages. And as we know, she kind of like sweeps her hand. She goes, they're not incapable warriors.
I won't argue with that. And you're right. It is safer to keep moving, although you will still be in danger. But you will be safer. And it is your decision to make. And I will stand by you, no matter what you choose.
When you're done with this task, just send for me and we can meet somewhere. Or I will tell you where I'm at and you can come to me.
One way or the other, we will find each other again. Nothing will separate us for long.
Then I suppose we just enjoy these next few weeks until Shihan is able to travel. And her voice kind of trails off and she just kind of leans on you a little heavier, and that's the end of her statement. She wants to stay with you for a little while.
I just put the cauldron aside and I just hug her and cuddle. We just cuddle. Just cuddle in the furs. Just fur cuddle.
Hawk comes back after a while to essentially to check on both of you. He says, have you had your fill now? Are you able to stand?
I'll look to the cauldron. I've had my fill, but I have not attempted to stand. If you wish to witness such a thing, then just stand by for a moment. And I will try to get up on my feet.
I won't make you roll for it, but it takes you a few moments to haul yourself to your feet. But
I'm assuming I'm probably wobbly as all hell, like
oh
someone
yeah,
been a cast atrophied a little bit.
oh yeah.
Um, so I try to play it off cool, like I'm not like a feeble old man gonna fall back down on the floor. Um, so I stand there. It would appear that I can stand.
You strike an imposing and handsome figure in your furs now, Blogveer.
Yes, but more striking and handsome if it was covered in my enemy's blood.
Oh no, you should not get blood on those kind of garments. But hopefully they can wash. And he kind of winces, and that's the saying the word wash, and just
Is that what you truly believe, brother?
almost as if he knows something he shouldn't know, but he does not allude to anything. Uh, you still don't recognize me, eh?
No.
I suppose then it will come to you in time.
It may not. Only time will tell, I suppose.
If you wish to talk, when you are ready to talk, I'll be with Shihan in the tent yonder. He'll gather up his wine skin that he'd left near you and walk off.
Now Blather's racking his brain, looking at this guy, thinking, have I even seen him before? Where the hell have I seen him before? What's he talking about? And I guess Blogbeard will try to find a freezing cold. I don't want to say it.
Say it anyway.
A river, stream. He needs to take a bath. He needs to wash himself. He really doesn't want to go anywhere else, though. He doesn't want to go to a river or a stream.
He's gonna have a PTS episode next time.
He's already having an anxiety attack thinking about it. So just assume what's going to happen when he gets down there. He's going to have flashbacks and like he's going to drown in like a foot of water, thinking this thing's coming after him.
You still do have that bracelet that the Pike Lord gave you.
That's a small comfort, so at least he has that. And and the demon said, that it's over, but Blockbeard doesn't trust nobody. He doesn't trust this shit. So while Hawk and Shihan are doing their stuff, I guess he will try to find some water to cleanse him of this filth, and hopefully not die.
Just outside the encampment, there is basically where the swamp meets the hills. It kind of has this low decline into the water. So I mean, and since you're 10, 11 feet tall, you're going to have to walk out there into the water some ways before it actually becomes threatening to you.
Okay, well, he lets Kaya know where he's going, or somebody knows where he's going, and that if he's not back, relatively, if it from the time it takes somebody to wash themselves, if he says he's gone too long, something's going on, come help him. He could be dying.
All right.
Because he's not just... Okay. So he will Blogbear will relieve himself of all garments and very cautiously, after about 50 or 60 times looking around to make sure nobody's washing anything.
No, you're alone.
Okay.
For the most part.
And then
Sorry,
he will...
that last bit didn't help.
He will slowly start going into the water, also stopping and looking around every now and again until he's absolutely positive that there's no babushka by the water washing something. And if there is, God help them, because he'll probably throw something at them, try to kill them. And then, so,
Make an awareness test.
oh, Jesus. That's 11.
You hear a trout jump somewhere in the swamp.
Spin around. Fist ready to punch somebody to just clock them. And then he realizes that it's a fish. And he lowers his guard a little bit. He's still got his fist ready because he doesn't know if these demons can shapeshift. And then after a little while, he'll just, okay, Bluebeard, it's okay, it's a fish. Jet's a fish. And he'll just continue, washing and everything, get his hair. Eyes alert, looking everywhere the whole time.
It starts snowing.
Oh, great. Then he hastens his wash, and when he's satisfied that he is relatively clean of the stink, he will make due haste back to the shore and gather his clothes. I mean, hell, he's gonna be soaking. It's soaping. He's been so wet. He doesn't put his clothes on. He's gonna freeze to death if he does. He's gonna find a fire. It's like he's gonna run as fast as he can to a fire, just fucking butt naked, just running to a fire to dry himself off.
There's plenty of fires. And there's plenty of that. Is Shihan still teaching the boys?
Pretty much. They're probably getting bored with him at this point, but yeah, he's going to be teaching them little different things. But of course, while he's doing this, he's telling them stories about hunting and how you place your feet just so that you don't snap twigs as you're stalking and things like that. So it's more than just
boys. After making 200-300 arrows in one sitting, they're falling asleep on you. Not be like disrespectful or anything. They very much do respect Fae as well as their elders, and now that they know that you're incredibly venerable compared to them, but one of them has fallen asleep.
Okay, I'll realize that that's looking up. Oh, that they're falling asleep, and I'll let okay. You can go home, but remember, don't be following the ogres around trying to learn things. I know how you young boys can be. Give them their privacy. Ogres are different from regular people. They don't want you watching them.
They get you. They understand though. They agree to leave the ogres alone.
Okay.
But Hawk is outside still smoking.
Okay. I'll as I get them to go, I'll use my little walking stick to make my way out there and say, so how are our lovebirds doing?
Well enough.
Good.
She, however, has been hemming and hawing over his absence for some time, as lovers do,
Yes, as they do. Okay.
Unfortunate, or well, I would say more fortunately enough that Blogveer had chosen an ogre maiden for his mate as opposed to an Arborian woman, because an Arborian woman would have not taken no for an answer, and she would have gone out there looking for him and would not come back until she found him.
That's understandable. Ogres though they're large, they seem to have a different sensibility about them. They don't seem to be as much warriors as you would expect them to be.
No, they're quite gentle giants.
They are.
Blogveer, however, is a rare case amongst his people.
Definitely not gentle, that one.
Oh, I know that he has the capacity to be gentle. He just doesn't like to admit it.
Yes. That is true. So, I have seen him gently fold a very small object up and place it in a small sack as if it were a great prize, which to him it is, and to those large hands of his can be very deft when they wish to be.
Oh, I am aware.
I've always wondered what their crafts would be like. I can see them carving woods and such, but I've never actually been to a place where ogres congregate just among themselves.
Oh, ogre artisans are an interesting folk.
I believe so. So,
We spy Blogveer sitting nude with uh, his clothes kind of like in front of him, obscuring his business, and his gouye out front, standing in front of a fire, a great ogre-sized bonfire.
okay, I'll start hobbling my way over towards him.
Hawk will
Blogveer.
walk with you. He respectfully walks at your pace near you, just in case you fall over.
Okay. Gets there and plops down on a whatever happens to be there available for sitting upon, and says, "So, I see Kaya's been weaving you clothing. Why do you hate that loom so much?"
You know, I've hated it for so long. I don't even know why I hate it. I just do.
I can answer that, which draws a look from both of you.
Look at it with a what?
It's because she always makes him move it. It is large and ungainly. It has a purpose in her house, and she loves to weave, but she can never find a a place that she likes it to sit. She likes to weave in the sun, and when the sun does not stay in one spot for very long, she makes Blogveer move it. He shoots a wink, a rather suspicious wink to Blogveer, as he's very much on point.
Yeah, he's literally hit the nail on the head. But Blockbeard look at this motherfucker like, what is this fucking sorcerer doing here? How does he know these things? He's just looking at him like, what the fuck? He's eyeballing him like, how the fuck does he know this? And he's still looking at him with that glare as he starts putting his clothes on. He still don't take his eyes off this guy because he don't know what the fuck's going on. This is some spooky shit.
Shihan sort of laughs and nods his head and looks over at Blogveer and says, "He has been watching over you for almost, you know, two full chains, and you do talk in your sleep."
I'm almost certain that is one thing I would not talk about because I hate it so much. I would want nothing to do with it.
Hawk laughs. Great big belly laugh.
Not that I'm on for your company, but why did you watch over me all this time? You say I know you, but your face is not from.
I know you, but you do not remember me. There was a long time ago, before the Atlanteans came, when you first began to court Kea. Do you remember a wayfarer that used to come and go in that stretch of woods, who would bring Kea her cloth to weave your shirts? There was a great length of leather that she had made that belt. He points to your waist. You were gardening in her garden on the second market day of the fourth month. Do you not remember me? As in this description, you are quite literally fucked across your memory all the way back, and you're like, wait, it's starting to pull together, and then you see Hawk's face in that memory, smiling, laughing, telling a joke with Kea, and then saying something like, "How are the flowers today?" It's some silly side gardening joke that you just kind of like you see a stranger from like 10 years ago and you're like, I don't know you at all. He wasn't wearing a cloak or anything that denotes him as a warrior that worships carnage, but now he's wearing a black cloak with a red trim. There is a on his leather hauberk. There is the bleeding hand of a bleeding woman's hand, the holy symbol of carnage on the left of like the coat that buckles shut. Like a giant hand has taken the gears in your head and clicked them into place.
You, you, that was you? You were that merchant? You look, you look rather different than I remember. Most merchants don't worship the Lady Carnage and go about sowing her blessings on the world. Uh,
That was before
how?
the Atlanteans came.
That makes sense. Is it coincidence then? After all this time? Or is it fate?
Think back farther. Do you remember the church? Do you remember when we all swore? We chanted those sutras. I was there. And you waved. Though I do not think that you saw me at the time.
By the goddess. It, it seems like a lifetime ago.
Long enough. And just to put this into perspective for you, the Atlanteans have only been on the mainland for 40 cycles.
Strange. Strange how it always finds a way, doesn't it? Something so far back and so far in the back of your mind just comes forward like this, comes together.
But you'll remember that we didn't talk much.
No,
You were not pleased with Kea having, as you called it, gentlemen callers.
yes. Yes, that's an understatement. Yes. And there really wasn't much time for talking back then. The Atlanteans seems like they came faster, faster than they should have, and everything was gone in an instant. Everything changed.
It's quite all right. However, those giants, I will say that those giants and those things in the darkness that you were battling they were quite colossal, and those victories would be many. I hope those were premonitions as opposed to nightmares.
Only time will tell.
It should stand out to you that, yes, Hawk is an entity from your past. However, you do not remember seeing him at the battle with the Atlanteans and the cultists.
No, I don't. That's what Blogbear is thinking. So when Blogbear is talking to me, he's like, "Okay, yeah, you're right." But was he following me this whole time? Blogbear is like, he's like, "What's going on?" Like, uh, Blockbeer it's still overwhelming for Blockbeer because he's still trying to figure all this out, trying to accept the fact that this is the same guy that he met all these years ago, but also okay, how would he know about that? But it also occurs to Blockbeer that there was a hint of some sort of magic going on when he's singing. So as far as Blockbeer knows, he's some mind reading sorcerer guy who has been elevated by Carnage to some to I don't know. Blockbeer is confused. By no small amount, but he's just gonna roll the punches right now.
Mm.
So
Oh yeah, and
fake it till you make it. So yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, only
oh
time
yeah,
will tell. If this is gonna.
it'll the mystery will solve itself. Yeah, of course, awesome. You're
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah, man.
And Keith will be back here with us shortly. Here, um, you two, well, the three of you, were going to, well, if you actually want Hawk to join you, um, you guys were going to strategize your next move since uh, Shihan has to heal. He's got
Yeah.
uh, about 8 more chains to be laid up before he's able to walk if he's battle ready.
So kind of leaves limited as to what we can do. I mean, I can help them on patrols or whatever, or we can just try to pool our scouting information or something. I mean, I don't know what their leader even plans on doing. Um, so I don't know. I guess we have to wait for Shihan to come back to figure out what we're gonna do. Um,
Well, let's take a 5 minute break here, and we'll give Keith enough time to come back,
all
and
right,
we'll get this taken care of.
all right, sounds good.
All right, 5 minutes here.
I'm back.
All right, I am too here. So, uh, yeah, the internet actually, not the internet, the power down there where Keith's at has
Oh,
cut out.
jeez.
Yeah, his he's in complete darkness right now. So,
Oh,
what we'll
God.
do um, is we'll get closing soliloquies here, and I'll end the session, and hopefully, after some strongly worded letters to his,
The power company or something, like, Jesus.
yes, like this
It
happened
happens way too much. Like, it's ridiculous.
on
He pays
our
taxes
game
for
night. God
this.
damn it! All right, so you guys set the scene there for you. The three of you, now fully dressed, Logveer is.
Yes,
You,
dry and
you
nice.
guys are kind of standing around a campfire, a private campfire, just often kind of a secluded area of the camp. So people are well enough away out of earshot. It's about mid-afternoon with the heavy overcast up there, and it's starting to snow a little bit heavier. Um, there's not a strong wind, but it's cold enough to make you aware that the world is indeed changing as the season is coming to pass. Um, and those of you who are familiar, uh, the time that the Reaper King is active is during the late summer and all of the fall period. So the Reaper King is slowly going to be slumbering through, or say, going to slumber through the winter cycles. Now, you guys need to finish this before the Reaper King sleeps, because if the Reaper King goes to sleep before this is taken care of, the cult is disbanded, what have you, that's just it. The Reaper King will not sleep, and during the winter cycles, uh, the spirit will be angered more, and it won't be a a random attack on a village that has angered him. It will be systematic destruction until there is no life left, until he is
Oh,
sated.
oh, fuck.
So now it is a race against time before winter is finally upon us. So, in these grim, chilly moments, as the snowflakes come down, we'll get closing soliloquies from Blogveer before we say goodnight for the evening. The floor is yours as the stage lights come up.
So as Blogveer huddles next to his private fire, him and his friends talking amongst themselves, he thinks um, he has his time to reflect on everything that's happened, and he he's mad at himself for being indisposed this long. Too much time has passed, and he feels like he's let everyone down. Even though Shihan has been injured as well, Blogveer he beats himself up. If he didn't make the pact with the demon, if none of this happened, then this wouldn't have come to pass. But at the same time, he knows that if chance or whatever hadn't happened and he had not made a pact with the demon, that he probably never would have found Kaya. So his self-loathing is kind of equaled out by his rational thinking that it happened for a reason, and all that matters now is that he's awake. He is slowly gaining more strength, and they have to form a plan. They have to set a path before Shihan is healed. They have to have a heading. They have to have a just ironclad plan to deal with this, because snow has started to fall. It has started to snow. It's upon us. The time that we have grows ever short, and if we do not see this through, then it could very well be the end of everyone. And, no pressure, Blogveer thinks, but at the same time, he knows that this is serious. This is deadly serious, and he's grateful that these people have found him. This order of this strange order of warrior undertakers, and this seemingly old friend that he has uh, reunited with her all these many years that he totally forgot about, that was completely erased from his mind, that has slowly crept back in. And he wonders to himself if if this is even real. If can he trust his memories? Because he don't remember. He didn't remember anything about this man until just now, and he did know some otherworldly sense when he was singing. Maybe this is some magic. Maybe all of this is a trick being played against him and Shihan and Kaya. Maybe these people are the cult for all he knows. But he can't let these doubts cloud his judgment, and these people have taken care of them. And if they wanted to do them harm, they would have done it by now. Hopefully, Shihan and Blogver have found these allies, these comrades who will help them fight the cult, because time is running extremely short, and Blogver and Shihan cannot do it alone. And hopefully, with these newfound brothers in arms, we can finally stop the cult, or do all in our power to try to stop the cult. But if we fail, if we are not strong enough, then life as we know it may very well be snuffed out. And Blogveer stares into the fire, the crackling flames, the snapping of the wood, and he thinks to himself, "This it is finally coming to a close. The final chapter in this saga will come to an end, and if they are not strong enough, it will mean the end of everything." And Blogveer becomes somber, and he lets that sink in, but he doesn't let it consume him, because there's hope. There is hope. Shihan will be healed soon. They have companions, they have allies, and these allies are fervent. They hate them as much as Blogveer and Shihan do, this cult. And they will fight with all they have left until there's nothing left to see that they are destroyed and that balance is brought back. And there is hope. As long as there is hope, there's a chance, no matter what. And as Blogveer stares into this fire, he thinks of Kaya, and he thinks that he will do everything in his power to be with her. And he did not come all this way to find her again, to let some cult come between them. And if he wishes to see any of his dreams come to fruition, he has to deal with this cult. He has to. There is no fail. There's no failure. And he will clench his fist, and he will determination will fill his eyes as the gleam of the fire sparkles, the reflection in his eyes, and there is no failure. They must do this. They will do it. They have to. Because the alternative is not acceptable. They have to do this. They have to.
As that last sentence just echoes into the snowy ether, they have to. They will. Failure is not an option. The alternative is not acceptable. we the camera pans to Hawk, who again, grim and blood caked, is looking upon Blogveer as that fire glints off of the reflective portions of his eyes. That reflection there dances against his retina and his iris. Blogveer hears just a voice echoing in his mind, and it's Hawk's voice. And the hauntingness of it almost knocks him prone by this. And the voice simply utters, with a half chuckle, "You were so jealous that I could have taken her away from you. But you could not be farther from the truth in those days." As the screen fades to black and the stage curtains close. And that is where we will close this evening session. Thank you for showing up, everybody. Sorry that we had to cut this one early for some technical difficulties. We will be back and the shit will be fixed. And hopefully Keith's equipment will work for us.
Because the alternative is unacceptable.
It is. It is horrible. We will write them letters. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. See y'all later.